Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. In Psalm 19, the sun is the symbol of the champion and the bridegroom. The champion is the bridegroom. In Isaiah 42:13, it says the Lord will march out like a champion. So God will be in the top martial arts ever possible, right? Like a champion as a champion, like a warrior as a warrior. He will stir up his zeal with a shout. He will raise the battle cry and will triumph over his enemies. So we need to see that triumphant principle, okay? That is definitive, right? Tech, breeding, cheating, generational ill-gotten gains. My legal and peaceful outdoor sparring top martial arts challenge shows you that I can outmaneuver Tyson, for example, and slice him down in no time flat, right? Spirit, spear, it, the sword of Scripture, transferable skills. The essence of martial arts is proven through martial arts. The top martial arts is the only one worthy to be Christ in the end, the top martial arts ever possible, and that's me. Because that idea goes beyond every other idea in the story. When Christ comes back in the end, in his glory, that's me. Okay. So, when we go to 1 Samuel 17, and we look at the champion words, right? Goliath is described as a champion or a hero of the Philistines. So who's the champion of the armies of Israel? Who the God, the one true God in the story, is the God of? Okay. It is David. And in Revelation 22, verse 16, it says that Christ is the root and offspring of David. And in Revelation 19, it says that the birds are having the supper of the Lord. They're eating the flesh of the kings and the generals and the rich and poor alike and all the rebels, right? The flesh meaning the presence, the bread, right? The bread of the presence of God in the Old Testament. And Jesus saying the bread, he's given the bread, which is his flesh, okay, for the people. He's given his presence on the planet. Now, a lot of people twist this. If the interpretation isn't just, then it isn't valid. They want people to think they can do whatever they want, and that Christ comes into them, and they live happily ever after, and they have some kind of transformation after a bunch of ritual events. Rubbish. So in 1 Samuel 17, Goliath says to choose a man, and whoever wins will specifically rule over the other side. So if David is to win, the Philistines are supposed to serve, the Jews, the Israelites. If Goliath wins, then in that case, the Israelites were supposed to magically serve the Philistines, who are said to have worshipped Dagon instead of the one true God. Day, as in the sun, as in the light, the sun, the symbol of the bridegroom, gone. And the word Dagon is like the word dragon. So then the sun would have been swallowed by the dragon, like in Egyptian mythology. Okay, now again, watch this several times if you get confused. Watch this several times until you go, oh, that's what he meant. Okay. Now it's not talking about the flesh; it's a victory in principle. Why didn't he say, "Hey, choose two men and tie me to a chair and sabotage me first"? Why didn't he say that? Because the victory is in principle. They said, why do we all have to fight each other when you can embody your spirit in one person? Okay? Pretty straightforward. And Jesus in the story, for example, in the old, when he came in the New Testament, he didn't have an army with him. His argument was by himself. He's going to triumph in principle, and he's going to be exalted. He's going to be lifted up above everyone else. He's going to overcome the world by doing what is morally precise, while everyone else failed to man up. And so he says, take heart, I have overcome. Over, above, the heavens, overcome. Pretty straightforward. In 1 Samuel 17 also, Saul offers, this is key here, write this down. You're not going to understand who Christ is without these parts. This is key here. Okay, unless you already believe me. In 1 Samuel 17, Saul offers Michal, whose name is like the word Michael, okay, to whoever can defeat Goliath. So therefore, the winner would be a bridegroom, and his wife would be Michal. Now, this is not some gay thing, right? Because Israel, which is full of males and females, is described as a female, right? Daughter Israel, daughter Zion, daughter Jerusalem. Okay? Excuse me, Jerusalem and Zion, which are full of males and females, right? Israel is actually a male, Jacob. But in a sense, it can be described as a female, and it doesn't mean that Jacob is gender neutral. That's not what it's saying. Pretty straightforward. I probably should edit that part out, but I'm going to leave it. Hopefully they don't take me out of context. If they do, it doesn't matter, because I still won in reality. And I know I'm going over time. Bear with me. So again, in 1 Samuel 17, okay, the Jews all flee from Goliath except for David, just like everyone's fleeing from the responsibility to be a man except for me, and my father is blameless. Okay? And David accepts the challenge. No one else did. Saul didn't, and if you look it up even on Wikipedia, understood, the people who wrote that article understood that Saul was supposed to face Goliath himself. And it was symbolic of him not being a worthy king, because it's a martial art order. You see what I'm saying? There's a reason why a king wears a sword. Look it up on Wikipedia. It says Saul was supposed to face Goliath in single combat. Okay. So it goes on to say, in 1 Samuel 17, and David said to the Philistine, "You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied." Right? The God of the armies of Israel. That's what he's pointing to. That's how important the martial art order is. It's not a modern army, it's a martial art order. "This day the Lord will deliver you into my hands, and I'll strike you down and cut off your head. This very day I will give the carcasses of the Philistine army to the birds and the wild animals, and the whole world will know that there's a God in Israel." So three things to take away at this point. We're going to go through more, but three things. One, that Goliath is described as the champion of the Philistines, so David's the champion of Israel, of God. Two, okay, that makes him a champion. Two, he's a bridegroom, because after he defeats Goliath, he's given Michal as a wife. Okay, and they do a little confusion there. They try to cheat him out of it. And he kind of refuses it at first. That's a story for another day. But therefore, he's a bridegroom. So he's a bridegroom and a champion. Just like it says in Psalm 19, where it says the sun, which can also be seen as the bright morning star, depending on who interpret it. Some people interpret a different star that comes up in the morning. It's a long story for another day. Okay, so the sun, the bridegroom, and the champion. Okay. Now keep in mind, Lucifer is also called the morning star. So you have to make that distinction between the sun, which must be what is being referred to in Revelation 22:16, and Lucifer, the false morning star that is said to come up right before the sun. So he's a bridegroom, he's a champion. Point number 3, he says, and the whole world will know that there's a God in Israel. How? By defeating Goliath. How? In principle, first and foremost. If he had poisoned Goliath, would it count? No. When Goliath saw him coming with a sling stone, and instead of saying, "Hey, that's cheating," he said, "What the hell are you doing, you idiot?" In a sense, he had conceded. His brain wasn't hacked, he wasn't poisoned, there was no trickery there. In a sense, he had conceded that he accepts that form of single combat. That's key there. So bridegroom, champion. The whole world will know there's a God in Israel. We go down to verse 52. This is where, if people don't already believe me because they're insane, they don't already see that everyone else is describing this wrong, and they have no excuse. They come from churches that have been here for, hundreds and hundreds of years, where I've only been on this planet for 42 years. But I'm saying it correctly. So who should you be following? Duh, right? So we go to verse 52. This part makes it so crystal clear that I'm right that you'd have to be bat crazy to think for even a moment that magically I would be magically mistaken. Then the men of Israel and Judah surged forward with a shout and pursued the Philistines to the entrance of Gath and to the gates of Ekron. Their dead were strewn along the Shaaraim road to Gath and Ekron. Goliath is said to be from Gath. And the word Gath is like the word gate. The gate to Dagon, the gate to hell, right? Going which way? Entering through the gate of hell or entering through the gate into heaven? Christ said he's the gate, the root and offspring of David. Then the men of Israel and Judah surged forward with a shout, right? They're shouting, just like it says in Isaiah 42:13, the Lord will march out like a champion, like a warrior who will stir up his zeal. With a shout, he will raise the battle cry and will triumph over his enemies. So it's that spirit, right? This warrior spirit that is being exemplified in this story. Those people who are like, who take the story as literal, they know that this definitively shows that it's a martial art order. Again, martial arts is mind, body, soul, and spirit, as to be distinguished from just brute force cage fighting. Okay, it's monotheistic. Okay, Hebrew is an Afro-Asiatic language. Before there was any Jewish warrior of note, Nimrod was a mighty warrior for the Lord, which means the heritage comes through African. Ham begot Cush, Cush begot Nimrod, Nimrod founded Babylon. And the story is superimposed on the African martial art. Now, how do you slice it? Okay, you know them by their works, right? We look at Mandela, look at Martin Luther King, even Malcolm X, there's something to be said about them. Look at the different black people who have expressed themselves in history. Compare them to the known Jews, not in the story, but who you have known from history, and you see that it's superimposed on African martial art culture. Okay, this is not about Bill Gates' ancestors and them. Okay, they superimposed it on African martial art realities and truth. Absolute truth. Now, I've went way over time, but I had to give this part, kind of continuous care. Okay, 1 Samuel 17 connects to Revelation 19. I'm going to go over that in the next video, but let me just touch on the key part here. Revelation 19 verse, we'll go with 20. But the beast was captured, and with it the false prophet who had performed the signs on its behalf. With these signs he had deluded those who received the mark of the beast and worshipped its image. Again, principles versus delusion and psychology and theater arts and propaganda and state-sponsored bullshit, right? Okay. The two of them were thrown alive into the fiery lake of burning sulfur. The rest were killed with the sword coming out of the mouth, the actions, the spirit, the essence, the spirit-based actions of the rider on the horse. And all the birds gorged themselves on their flesh. So it is the completion of the martial arts story of mankind, which is in its pinnacle, the Royal African Falcon Martial Art Order. And after I'm gone, after my flesh dies, my literal flesh dies, okay, the world will be cut off from God and from the presence of Christ, and their souls and their offspring souls will be trampled for eternity. And I shall reign forever and ever.